Quote, "Our failure as a society to properly acknowledge and confront the psychological, social, and political effects of white privilege has perpetuated racial inequality and race-based political resentments." End quote. Hey, it's Jonathan, and you're listening to a breakout episode of The Equation, a biologist's inquiry into love, spirituality, and social justice. I have touched on the notion of privilege in the last 2 episodes and wanted to dive into the subject a little more. The opening quote from Tim Wise focuses on racial privilege, and that's the subject of our thought experiment today. Keep in mind that, as the title implies, these 2 people I'm about to describe are 100% made up using my imagination. Let's start with Chad. Chad is white and born into an upper-middle-class neighborhood in, let's say, a suburb of Atlanta. Chad is a sensitive, sweet boy and does well in school. He goes to a private school where he receives a lot of attention, and he shows a gift for music. This gift is nurtured and grows. He struggles with some mental health issues but is seen regularly by a highly qualified therapist who keeps him healthy enough to continue to excel. He gets into some typical adolescent trouble, including one incident that gets him put in jail. But his parents have a good lawyer, and he is just assessed a fine, and he goes on to compose music. He ends up working with a major motion picture company composing movie scores and wins numerous awards and is considered a musical genius. One typical of having bouts of neuroticism that is considered normal for someone of such creative caliber. Next we have Carl, an African-American born in the inner city of Atlanta to a loving mother. He goes to a woefully underfunded public school that has few resources and enormous class sizes. He's a sensitive, sweet boy, but he learns to protect this tenderness with a shield of psychological armor in order to survive the prison-like conditions of his school. Carl has a gift for music composition, but the school has cut funding for arts, so therefore this gift never gets developed in him. He's mad as hell for seeing such stark inequality in the world and turns to drugs to ease his rage and trauma of trying to survive such impossible conditions for a sweet human critter. There's no work to be found for a black addict, and Carl finds himself living on the streets, unable to cope with all the complexity the world has to offer. When a person comes across a Chad or a Carl in the world, chances are that they are viewed quite differently. Yet here are 2 sensitive geniuses standing right before you, and the only difference between them are the privileges they have in life. Born into 2 drastically different realities within the same country, the same city for that matter, both trying to strive and survive and make sense of the worlds they inhabit. I ask you, which one of them is a bad person? Which one is deserving of our trust? This thought experiment is meant in part to just get your own imagination going. This thought experiment is as much about economic privilege as it is about race. But everything is interrelated, and although it is silly to assume that all white people have economic privilege and black people don't, this is overwhelmingly the case. Black people disproportionately come from poor neighborhoods and are being thrown into jails at an alarming rate because of it. What other details are there that might have turned these 2 stories in different directions? What other stories can you create with other forms of privilege in relation to gender, sexuality, economic, and other forms of privilege? Here's a little taste of the privileges I benefit from. Possessing the dominant skin color, the dominant accent, of openly being able to express your affection in public, of seeing a reflection of yourself depicted in the media in a positive light, of being from an area that has historically produced, quote, successful people, of having access to higher education, of your parents having the same access, of your ancestors openly and willingly coming to this beautiful land, of being from a culture that wasn't obliterated in the process of creating the United States. of having sexual fantasies that align with the culture's dominant fantasies at large, of possessing a support system that is there for you through thick and thin. Thanks, Mom, Dad, and Bro. You're quite literally the best. Of possessing an image that resembles what the culture at large has determined beauty to be, of your age being represented as being wise and all-knowing, of possessing a body that has the sexual body parts that aligns with society's notion of important professions, of possessing the confidence that I can perform creative-style labor, of being from an area that hasn't been raped of its resources, of not being raped my damn self, of my hard work being rewarded with a living wage. What someone gets paid for their labor has nothing to do whatsoever with anything resembling nature or the animal kingdom. Are you hearing me, social Darwinists? Of your work being generally not harmful to your health, of being able to live in a social reality where my decisions look intelligent, of being able to afford therapy, of living in an area that has good therapists, of not having to choose going into the military as a means of escaping the fucked up place I'm from, of looking a certain way that doesn't arouse suspicion when around a law enforcement, of being able to be an elite atheist, of being able to wear a hoodie and knock on a stranger's door for assistance, of possessing access to technology and the training and confidence to be able to use it. And for those of you that think this is an exhaustive list, dead wrong. This is just the tip of an ever-shifting giant privilege iceberg. Hell, these are just the ones I came up with off the top of my head. The idea isn't to feel bad about possessing privilege, but to acknowledge it so you can act a little more decent within your social realities. To understand it so you can act in a way that may shift the dynamics of privilege so a larger subset of the population can suffer less. Thanks again to Scott, and if you haven't yet, or if you have and want to check it out more, please go to www.theequation.info and have a look around. And if you feel compelled, please donate. If it isn't already abundantly obvious, this is an extremely DIY project with no outside funding or advertising, so anything you feel like donating is greatly, greatly appreciated. Thanks also to Appleshop and WMMT, the best little radio station in the whole wide world, for letting me use their recording studio. Check them out at www.appleshop.org. All opinions are mine. And the snazzy music you're listening to, that's brought to you by my ever so talented 7-year-old stepdaughter and yours truly. Bye now. Thank you.